Hey everybody, how are you? Happy Easter. So last week, of course, was Holy Week, and now this week we call the octave of Easter. It's active, like an octave in music. Da, da. It's like eight notes separated, so it's the 8 days after Easter. It's like Easter is too powerful to be contained in one day, and so it's like this octave of Easter. Daily Mass has been great. They have the great stories of Jesus appearing to Mary Magdalene in the garden today with the children. We had the road to Emmaus and Jesus being recognized in the breaking of the bread. And so all these great, beautiful stories of the resurrection appearances fill this octave of Easter. So I'm in church. It's outside. It's not too bad. It's warm enough. But I thought I wanted to show you a few things that are in church. We got our lilies behind us trumpeting the resurrection. Our Easter lilies here, right? He's risen. He's risen. I'll show you the Paschal candle in a little bit. It's too tall to really get the whole thing on our screen, but Ginny's forsythia. I have some growing in the rectory yard too. It's beautiful to see some of the signs of new life. So on Easter, I think it was a pretty happy day here at St. James. We had the Easter Vigil on the night before. And that was beautiful. You know, again, last year we didn't have anybody at any of these liturgies other than the readers and the singer and piano player. So it was great to have people back. Easter morning, you know, they were as full as could be. We had to have reservations with the distancing and all, and so we thought just to really try to make people have the opportunity to go to Easter Mass and receive communion and all. We'd have an outdoor Mass for Easter Sunday at 10:30. And it was just a great success. I'm sure it wasn't perfect, but I think, without exaggerating, I think we had over 500 people there. So, you know, from a pastoral point of view, that's really successful, because even with perfect efficiency, seating people inside right now, we could probably have a max of around 150, you know, so that's like 3 times, almost 4 times as many as we could get. So that was happy. And going ahead in the future, we'll see. I mean, obviously Easter, you're gonna get more people, right? So this Sunday, we'll also try outdoor Mass. I haven't looked at the forecast yet, at 10 o'clock. And then we'll see. You know, if we always get 500 people, then I think we'd probably want to keep doing it. I'm quite sure we won't. But we're just trying to see how we can serve the most people. That's the whole goal of this whole thing. And you know, if it ends up like that settles down to like about 100 people at the outdoor Mass, well, then we could accommodate that inside. Surely there are some people that will only go outside at this point, and I don't, you know, everyone's got different situations in life and different tolerances for going out with the virus and all. So I completely respect that. I completely respect our people continuing to view and celebrate from home. I hope you have that sense of felt communion, even when you're not standing shoulder to shoulder, or next to, but distant, wide shoulder, you know, fingertip to fingertip maybe. So gradually we'll be coming back. Anyway, so if I was going to say, so there are people, I'm sure, that would only go to outdoor Mass, and if so who knows? If there's hundreds and hundreds that go to outdoor Mass, we'll keep doing that. If it's not, if it seems like it's a number that would also go here, because there's some people don't want to go to outdoor Mass, and we hope they can go to 8 o'clock or the night before. But so we may go to like having one outdoor Mass a month, something like that. But we'll just kind of wait and see what the numbers look like and what people. Maybe we'll take a short survey. We've had a lot of helpful responses from parishioners with our little email surveys we send out to get a quick sense of where people are at with different things. So anyway, that's always a topic of discussion. We did not meet as a staff this week because we just had Easter, and a lot of people are pretty fried, so we kind of took the week off, so I don't have too much to report that way. What else? Hey, Ann Henriksen, if you know St. James, you know Ann Henriksen. She, 20 years. She had her 20-year anniversary here with us. I forget which day she walked in. It was before Easter. It was like April 1st, April 2nd, something like that was her 20th anniversary of serving us at St. James. So if you get a chance to congratulate her and thank her for her service over the years, that'd be great. She's a good person, and a good person to have where she is. She's very what she does. Sometimes if I'm in the middle of something, it's a character flaw. If I'm in the middle of something, I have a hard time breaking away from it, and just focusing on the person in front of me. And but she does that all the time, and I witness it every day. She just really makes the person who comes in the door feel like they're the focus of her attention, because they are. So anyway, we're glad to have Anne working with us as our office manager and many other things. Well, let's talk about this Paschal candle for a little bit. Just a couple sort of Easter things. I just mentioned a couple books. So before our book club is going to be like the week of the 18th. It's like, oh gosh, Easter Sunday was the 4th, so the 11th, the 18th. I think it's going to be April 27th. It's our next book club. I know it is. So it's a little ways away if you still want to get this book. It's called Light Through the Crack by Sue Mosteller. But if you just did Light Through the Crack. And her Light Through the Crack. It's the idea, it's from a Leonard Cohen song, the title. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets through. It's a beautiful thought, that sometimes on our journeys, how the light of God gets through, how the healing rays of God get through, are only when we recognize our need for God, or it's only when we're brought low, it's only when we're broken, in a sense, that we know we need healing, we need God, we need strength beyond what we can give ourselves, we need a forgiveness that we can't give ourselves. And so it's that when we're cracked, that's how the light gets through. So it's a beautiful thought. And it's her reflections on her experience living with a L'Arche community. L'Arche, it means the ark in French. And we mentioned it before because when we sold those Christmas crafts from Bethlehem, made out of the Bethlehem sheep, it was a L'Arche community that made those crafts. So it's people with intellectual disabilities living and working with people without those disabilities in community. And so it's sort of her reflections based on what she learned about life based on her experience living in L'Arche. So it's pretty good. It's really very good. I just came across something else. I was trying to Google resurrection, meaning of resurrection in Amazon or something, and there was a book edited by James Martin. He often, we've read a few books by him that have been very well received in our book club. It says edited by him, and it's really interesting. It was free. That's why I mentioned it to you. Just as an ebook, it's free. So if you have a Kindle or a way to read an ebook, it's called The 10 Best Books to Read for Easter. The 10 Best Books to Read for Easter. And edited by James Martin. And what it is, I didn't open it yet. I just looked at what's in there though. It's a chapter from each of 10 books that he thinks are good Easter reads. And I thought, well, that's free is good, right? And it's like C.S. Lewis. It's a chapter from a C.S. Lewis book. Mere Christianity, it's a chapter from an N.T. Wright book, who writes a lot about resurrection. He's a great Anglican scholar on resurrection. I'm trying to think of the other Desmond Tutu, the Archbishop from South Africa. So anyway, it's free if you're interested in reading something that could be provocative to you. Then you could read a chapter and say, oh, that chapter was great. Then you can get the whole book. I guess that's why it's free. It's kind of a marketing thing, but. Okay, anyway, so hey, let's look at this Easter candle. So it's a little different this year, if you noticed, and you might get tired of, if you're a part of St. James, and you might get tired of hearing me explain it, but I want to make sure people know why it's a little bit not as attractive as previous Paschal candles that we've had. So here's our Paschal candle, right? It's big. So it's always this big. It's 4 feet. We do have a brass topper for it that we put right on it here. But just for today, I took that off. You know what these are called, by the way? And you never guess. It's called a follower, because it follows the wax down. So if you ever have to buy something in a church goods store, say, do you have any candle followers? Anyway, so this is there's our previous Paschal candles have been very decorated and beautiful, and that's good. But this one is just a white candle, and for the nails, we always insert nails, and they're usually decorative nails, but it's for the 5 wounds of Christ. And they're usually like, gold with, blue cross on them or something like that with wax and kind of a heavy duty, like thumbtack kind of thing. And you pushed it in there. They're actually called rosettes. And anyway, this year, we got a little bit of a different look, okay? So I don't know how well you can see that. Shoot, doesn't seem to, all right, that's pretty good. They're actually, right, they're nails. And they're, if you can tell, they're not round nails, they're square nails. So those nails were used to build a church in 1849, so a long time ago, like 172 years ago. Monks came from Malloray, Ireland, and they settled just southwest of Dubuque in a little farming community called Peosta. And they quarried their own limestone, and they built a monastery, and they built a church with that limestone. And for the wooden parts, they nailed together the walls and the different parts of the monastery with these nails. These nails were pulled from the original church. So I was on retreat once, and it's called New Mallory Abbey. I was on retreat there once, and they sold these crosses that were 4 of these nails here, kind of attached at the point and going, in each of 4 directions, and soldered together at the center. And I thought, that's beautiful. I think I picked one of those up. And then I talked to the clerk and I said, can I get a hold of any of those, just the nails? Because I was thinking, I think I saw somewhere a real stark Easter candle like this, with just like this one looks now. So it was in my mind, that might be nice to try sometime. So he said, yeah, go to the machine shop, and there should be some monk over there, and just ask him, he'll give you some. And sure enough, that's what happened. So now they're in St. James Church. They are, it's a sign to me. I read something, there was a little quote I read today about the cross and resurrection, the crucifixion and the resurrection. Good Friday and Easter. The author said, they're distinguishable, but they're never separable. Distinguishable, but never separable. I might have mentioned, whenever I have a crucifix hanging in my office or my house or any place, I always have a little icon of the resurrection next to it as well. I got that idea, again, like so many, Father Shev's in his office. He used to have an image of the crucifixion and then an image of the resurrection. They were like right next to each other, like it didn't look good spatially, and he has such good taste with art. I thought, why are they so jammed together? And he said, well, you tell me, what do you think? And I said, maybe because you can't have resurrection without crucifixion, and resurrection doesn't mean anything without the crucifixion, or they go together. And he didn't say that was right or wrong, but he seemed satisfied with that explanation. So anyway, I've always remembered that, and I as the quote last week, I think I said, John Sabrino, without the resurrection, the crucifixion would have no power. Without the crucifixion, that power would not be love. And so we, even on this great symbol of resurrection, of the risen Christ, we have signs of his crucifixion. He's not just a risen Savior that says, don't worry, be happy, but he's one who carries his wounds. We'll talk about that maybe next week too, at the St. Thomas Gospel. So I'm going to put this Paschal candle down and just show you a couple things. I was reading a summary of this book by John Crossan. He's kind of a historical theologian, and he was talking about how in the Christian East and the Christian West, the resurrection is depicted differently. And there's no description in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John of the resurrection. What we hear is an empty tomb and appearances of the risen Christ to people, but you don't hear how the resurrection happened. What did it look like? Is it something that could have been videotaped even, Like the crucifixion is different that way. It's clearly, it's not as mysterious as the resurrection. Like historians with no religious bent whatsoever can document that the crucifixion happened, right? Resurrection seems to have a lot more to do with faith. And so anyway, I don't have any pictures of the way he says that it evolved in the West, the art, looking. So people have wondered, what did the resurrection look like? So often you see Jesus in like Western art. He'll be like triumphant. He'll be like one knee up and his one other foot down. He's kind of like leaping out of the tomb. And it's him, he's risen from the grave. And it's beautiful. But this cross, and he said, he's, in all those pictures, he's like utterly alone. It's just him. And that's interesting. And then because like the images I'm more used to, because I like icons, as you might know if you've watched this chat for a while. And it's like the one we have in back of church. I'll show you a couple of them. So this is more what you see in the Eastern church, not the West. So you see, there's Jesus in white rising from the tomb. He's actually, see that X, that white X below him? That's actually like the doors to the underworld, the doors that separate the dead from the living. You could call it hell, but it's not so much like this place of suffering and gnashing of teeth, but just like where there is no life, where there is no God. And it's like after his crucifixion and, before he rises, and appears to people, he goes to the realm of the dead. It's like in the first or second letter of Peter, they talk about it. The harrowing of hell is a phrase that gets used. And that's kind of Adam and Eve on his right and left that he's pulling out, and they represent all of humanity. Here's another image, similar thing. This is one very much like the one in back of church. It's a banner hanging down from our choir loft. Sorry about that. So, see that? So that's like Jesus pulling Adam and Eve from their tombs, he being released from his tomb. And there you can see the doors look a little like doors, and those little scattered silver things, kind of left and right on the bottom in the black background. It's like the hinges and the nuts and the bolts that kept the doors to hell intact. And it's like Jesus just, punched them down, just kind of kicked them down with this power of risen life. And as I mentioned last week, the idea that he descended into hell is this idea that he took his light. There's no place, the darkest corner of the universe would be the farthest corner of the dead, the farthest corner of hell. And Jesus, he went there with his risen power, his risen presence, and brought his light there. And so when he drags out Adam and Eve, right, it's not like he says, well, I'm going to get Adam and Eve, I like them. Not really. It's like I like humanity. Adam and Eve represent humanity because they're, biblically the first human beings, right? So it's like he's pulling all of us up in his own resurrection. What's that prayer? Right now I probably can't remember it. Whenever we have a funeral mass, we proclaim that Jesus is the firstborn of the dead. Where he is gone, we hope to follow, right? So anyway, he makes this point in this book that there's a power in this communal sense. And I think he suggests, I didn't read the whole book, I just read summaries of it, an article that he wrote for a magazine based on that book. That's the slow reader's shortcut to gaining knowledge. But, I don't know if you can feel a difference there, but it's like resurrection. If it's just seen as like Jesus rising on his own, then it's like, well, that's good. He rose from the dead. It's good for him. It's probably good for me. He broke the chains of death, and if he can rise from the dead, and I have faith in him, I can rise from the dead, and that's beautiful. The sense of pulling all humanity with him, to me, that sense, it creates a little bit more of a sense like resurrection isn't just about me surviving death. It's about being reborn and brought into the life of Christ. So what's that, Paul? If we've died with Christ, at Romans 6, we read at the Easter Vigil, we have been baptized into Christ, have been baptized into his death. And if we've been baptized into his death, we've died to sin, so that we might die to an old self and rise to a new self that lives for God. So this resurrection and this baptism for St. Paul, the very earliest days of Christianity isn't about just like, oh, good, I don't have to think death is the end for me. That's true, but it's also like my whole life here should be transformed. And the fact that it's all together, there's this communal sense. It's like the resurrection should affect how we live together in a human community. We should love one another as Jesus loved us, all those things. And maybe I'm just preaching to the choir and that's obvious to you, but I do think it's a problem in some circles of Christianity that it's just so individualized. It's just like, it's just me and Jesus. And as long as I know I'm saved, that's good, And, that is good, but that's not all that there is to it. He's meant to bring us along. That beautiful prayer again that we sometimes say at the Eucharistic prayer, that keep us attentive to the needs of others, so that sharing their grief and their pain, as well as their joy and their hope, we may go forward together along the way of your kingdom. And that's as an Easter people, right? So, yeah. Anyway, those are some thoughts. I think I just have those thoughts today for you, okay? And hope you continue to find hope and faith and love in the resurrection of Christ, and you can join us in our prayer in the days ahead as we sing Alleluia. Jesus Christ is risen today. Alleluia. Alleluia. Who survived the cross and grave. Alleluia. Sinners to redeem and save. Alleluia. Let's walk together as people with faith in the risen Christ, who's destroyed death and created new bonds of communion and life among us. Amen.